We've already listed your Honda for sale, Mom announced at our weekly family dinner, not even looking up from her plate. Sarah's wedding venue deposit is due next week. I carefully set down my fork, watching my sister's smug smile grow wider. The cheap diner's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across our booth, making the scene feel even more surreal. That car is in my name, I said quietly. Oh please, Dad jumped in. We co-signed when you were 19. You're 28 now, still driving that same old Honda while living in that tiny apartment. Sarah needs this. She's marrying into the Thompson family. We can't have a shabby wedding. Sarah nodded enthusiastically. The Thompsons expect a certain standard. Besides, James barely uses that car anyway. He's always taking the bus or walking. If they only knew why I rarely drove that Honda anymore. The car is worth maybe $5,000. I pointed out. The venue deposit alone is $30,000. Every bit helps, Mom snapped. You need to contribute to this family for once. Your sister has a real career, a real future. What do you have? That little computer job you never talk about. I stayed silent, thinking about the real reason I took buses and walked everywhere. About the fleet of vehicles safely stored in my private garage across town. About the fact that I owned this entire block of buildings, including the diner we were sitting in. The buyer is coming tomorrow, Dad declared. We expect you to hand over the keys without making a scene. I pulled out my phone and typed a quick message. Within seconds, the diner's manager approached our table. Mr. Kingston, is everything all right with your meal? She asked, pointedly ignoring my family's confused expressions. Everything's fine, Linda. Could you have Thomas bring my car around? Of course, sir. The black one or the silver? The black one tonight. My family's faces shifted from confusion to shock as Linda hurried away. Mom was the first to recover. What's going on? Who is she talking about? You'll see in about 30 seconds, I replied calmly. The next minute felt like an eternity as my family tried to process what was happening. Then we heard it, the distinctive purr of a V12 engine pulling up outside the diner. Through the window we watched as Thomas, my personal valet, stepped out of a gleaming black Rolls-Royce Phantom. The streetlights caught the custom midnight paint, making it shimmer like liquid obsidian. That's a Rolls-Royce, Dad stammered. One of them, yes, I said, standing up. Would you like to see the others? Others? Sarah's voice had lost all its previous smugness. Follow me. I led my stunned family outside. Thomas stood at attention beside the Phantom, holding the rear door open. Good evening, Mr. Kingston, he said professionally. Evening, Thomas. We'll be making a quick trip to the garage tonight. My family hesitated before climbing into the car's plush interior. The hand-stitched leather seats and burled walnut trim were a far cry from their expectations of my little computer job. As Thomas drove us through the city, I finally broke the silence. That Honda you're planning to sell, I keep it as a reminder of where I started, but I haven't actually needed it for the past 5 years. 5 years, Mom's voice was barely a whisper. What have you been doing all this time? Building something. Something quite large, actually. While you were all focused on Sarah's real career and the Thompson family's expectations, I was quietly becoming one of the largest tech entrepreneurs in the city. Thomas turned down a private drive, approaching what appeared to be an ordinary parking structure. But as we descended into the underground levels, the true nature of the building became clear. The garage doors opened to reveal a climate-controlled showroom housing over 20 luxury vehicles. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys and more, each one immaculately maintained. Welcome to my actual car collection, I said as Thomas parked the Phantom. That Honda you're so eager to sell. It's worth about the same as one of these cars' annual maintenance bills. My family stumbled out of the Rolls-Royce, their eyes wide as they took in the multi-million-dollar collection. But, how? Sarah managed to ask. Remember that little computer job you all dismissed? I founded Kingston Technologies. We're now valued at over $3 billion. Dad grabbed a nearby pillar for support. Kingston Technologies. The AI company that's been all over the news. The same one. We're revolutionizing artificial intelligence applications in healthcare. That tiny apartments I live in. I own the entire building. Actually, I own most of this neighborhood. Mom sank onto a nearby bench, her face pale. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? You were all so convinced I was a failure. It was easier to let you think that while I built something meaningful. But surely you could have said something, Sarah protested. Especially about all this. She gestured at the cars. Like you said something when you spread rumors about my dead-end job to the Thompson family. Or when you told your fiancé I couldn't afford a proper wedding gift. Sarah had the grace to look ashamed. The truth is, I continued, I've been watching and waiting, watching you all judge and dismiss me, waiting to see if anyone would actually ask about my life instead of just making assumptions. I walked over to a sleek Ferrari and ran my hand along its pristine finish. You know what's ironic? I could buy the Thompson family's entire company if I wanted to. Their certain standard doesn't come close to matching mine. James' dad started, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. You came to me tonight planning to sell my car without my permission. You assumed you had the right to take what's mine, because you've always seen me as less than. That ends today. I pulled out my phone and showed them a series of documents. See this? I've been quietly buying up the debts and mortgages of every property our extended family owns. The house you remortgaged for Sarah's wedding, I own that note now. Aunt Patricia's beach house, mine. Uncle Robert's business loans, all held by my company. The color drained from their faces as they realized the implications. I'm not going to foreclose or call in any debts, I assured them. That's not who I am. But things are going to change. What do you want? Mom asked quietly. Respect. Recognition that success doesn't always look the way you expect it to. And most importantly, I want you to understand that your assumptions about people, about me, have consequences. I turned to Sarah. Your wedding venue deposit, I'll pay it. Not because you deserve it, but because I want to show you a better way to treat family. But from now on, you'll all need to earn what you get from me. How? Sarah asked. By learning, Dad. You'll start by working in entry-level positions at my company. Mom, you'll volunteer at the tech education center I'm building for underprivileged kids. Sarah, you'll intern in our HR department, starting from the bottom, just like I did. You can't be serious, Sarah protested. I've never been more serious. You wanted family contribution. This is it. You'll all learn what it really takes to build something worthwhile. I walked back to the Rolls-Royce, where Thomas still waited patiently. The Honda stays where it is. As a reminder to all of us, Thomas will drive you home tonight. Tomorrow you'll start your new positions. If you choose not to show up, well, I gestured at the documents still displayed on my phone. I'm sure you understand the alternative. As they slowly filed back into the car, I could see the reality of their new situation sinking in. Years of dismissal and judgment were being replaced by the shocking truth of who I'd become while they weren't paying attention. One more thing, I called as they settled into the Phantom's leather seats. Next time you want to sell someone's car, try asking first. You might be surprised by what you learn. I watched as Thomas drove them away, their shocked faces visible through the tinted windows. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as they adjusted to their new reality. But for tonight, I had finally shown them the truth they'd been too blind to see. Walking through my collection of cars, I paused at the old Honda parked in a corner. Its modest presence among the luxury vehicles told the story of my journey better than words ever could. Tomorrow my family would begin their own journey, learning the value of respect, hard work, and the danger of underestimating others. The next morning, I arrived at Kingston Technologies headquarters early. As usual, the gleaming 50-story building dominated the city skyline, its curved glass exterior reflecting the rising sun. As I pulled into my private parking space in the Porsche 911 GT3, my preferred daily driver, I saw my family already waiting in the lobby. They looked uncomfortable in their business attire, a far cry from their usual confident demeanors. Dad kept adjusting his tie while Sarah fidgeted with her hair. Mom stood slightly apart, her face a mixture of embarrassment and resignation. Linda, my chief of operations, was waiting with them. Her slight smirk told me she was enjoying this moment perhaps a bit too much. Good morning, I said, walking past them to the biometric security gate. Linda will get you set up with your assignments. James' dad called out. Can we talk about this first? I turned around slowly. You mean like how you talked to me about selling my car? He flinched. That's not fair. Actually, it's perfectly fair. Linda, please proceed with their orientations. As I walked to the elevator, I heard Linda beginning her explanation. Mr. Kingston Sr., you'll be starting in building maintenance. Sarah, HR filing is on the third floor. Mrs. Kingston, the Tech Education Center needs help organizing their new youth program. Their protests faded as the elevator doors closed. I had work to do. Several hours later, my intercom buzzed. Sir, my assistant said, there's a situation in building maintenance. I already knew what this was about. Camera feed, please. The wall screen flickered to life, showing Dad arguing with his supervisor. Even without audio, I could read his body language. The same dismissive attitude he'd shown me for years. Send security to escort him to my office, I instructed. 5 minutes later, Dad stormed in, his face red. This is ridiculous. Do you know what they wanted me to do? Clean the bathrooms, I asked calmly, not looking up from my tablet. I'm not a janitor. I ran my own business for 30 years. Now I did look up. And how's that business doing, Dad? Should we talk about the loans you took out last year? The ones I now own. He deflated slightly but maintained his indignant stance. This is punishment, isn't it? No, Dad, this is education. I stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. See that man down there? The one cleaning the lobby windows. Dad joined me at the window. His name is Mike. He's been with us for 3 years. He has 2 engineering degrees and helps maintain our AI cooling systems. But twice a week, he still cleans windows. Want to know why? Dad didn't respond. Because he understands what you don't. That no job is beneath us if it contributes to the whole. He makes 6 figures a year, but he knows every aspect of this building from the ground up. That's what builds a real business. I turned to face him. So yes, today you're cleaning bathrooms. Next week, you might be learning our security systems. The week after that, maybe our AI basics. But first, you need to learn humility. And if I refuse, I pulled up his loan documents on my tablet. Then you can explain to Mom why you're losing the house. Your choice. He stared at me for a long moment before his shoulders slumped. I'll get back to work. Good choice. As he reached the door, he paused. That car collection. How long? 5 years of careful collecting. Every time you bragged about Sarah's promotion or mocked my little computer job, I bought another one. He nodded slowly and left. The afternoon brought Sarah's turn. She burst into my office without knocking, waving a stack of papers. Filing, really? I have an MBA. And I have a multi-billion-dollar company. Guess which one matters more in this building? The Thompsons will hear about this. Do you know how embarrassing? Actually, I cut her off. Bradley Thompson already knows. We play golf together monthly. His company uses our AI systems. That stopped her cold. What? In fact, he's the one who suggested this approach. Seems he's not too impressed with how his future in-laws treat family. Sarah sank into a chair, her face pale. Bradley knows everything. Everything. Including how you told him I couldn't afford a proper wedding gift. He found that particularly interesting, considering he's been trying to get a meeting with Kingston Technologies CEO for months. I didn't know, obviously, but now you do. So would you like to return to your filing, or should I call Bradley and tell him the wedding's off?
Bang.
The wedding's off. She stood up shakily. I'll get back to work. Smart choice. Mom lasted until evening before seeking me out. I was in my private garage, checking on the Honda they'd tried to sell. Your father's hands are blistered, she said quietly from behind me. He'll learn to wear gloves. And Sarah's crying in her apartment. She'll learn humility. And me? Mom's voice cracked slightly. What am I supposed to learn? I turned to face her. The same thing I had to learn. That worth isn't measured by appearances or expectations. We really messed up, didn't we? Yes. She walked over to the Honda, running her hand along its hood. I remember when you bought this. Your father said it was a waste of money. It was all I could afford then. But I had plans. And now, she gestured at the luxury cars surrounding us. Now I have different plans. The question is, are you all willing to be part of them? Really part of them, not just when you need money or status. Mom was quiet for a long moment. What does that look like? It looks like Dad learning every aspect of my business from the ground up. Like Sarah understanding that real success comes from building things, not marrying into them. Like you helping kids learn the skills I had to teach myself. And then maybe we can be a real family again. One built on respect, not expectations. She nodded slowly. I'll talk to them. But James? Yes, keep the Honda. We need the reminder. As she left, I smiled slightly. Maybe there was hope for them after all. But first, they had a lot more learning to do. Dad had bathrooms to clean. Sarah had files to organize. And Mom had young minds to help shape. And I had a family to rebuild, one humbling lesson at a time. The Honda would stay right where it was, a constant reminder of where we'd all started, and how far we still had to go. 3 months later, the changes in my family were becoming evident. Dad's hands had call used from honest work. Sarah's designer clothes had been replaced by practical office wear. And Mom was actually smiling when she talked about her students at the tech center. But I knew the real test was coming. The Thompson family had requested a meeting, all of them. Bradley, his parents, and their board of directors. The kind of meeting that would have sent my family into a social climbing frenzy just months ago. I scheduled it for a Tuesday morning, and deliberately didn't tell my family. As I sat in the conference room, watching the Thompsons file in, I caught Bradley's subtle nod. He'd kept our arrangement quiet, just as promised. Welcome to Kingston Technologies. I greeted them. I believe you know my senior maintenance supervisor. Right on cue, Dad walked in, pushing his cleaning cart. He froze when he saw the Thompsons. James, I can come back, he started. Actually, I'd like you to stay. Mr. Thompson, this is my father. He's been learning our operation from the ground up. Bradley's father raised an eyebrow. Interesting management style. We believe in understanding every level of the business. I replied smoothly. Sarah, could you bring in the presentation materials? My sister walked in with a stack of files, her face flushing when she saw her fiancé. Bradley smiled warmly at her, and some of her tension eased. Mom, I called out. Are your students ready? Mom entered with 5 teenagers from her tech program, each carrying tablets with our latest AI demonstrations. The next hour was enlightening. Dad, despite his embarrassment, expertly explained our building's integrated systems. Knowledge gained from 3 months of hands-on work. Sarah efficiently organized the presentation materials, her MBA finally being put to practical use. And Mom's students demonstrated our AI applications with an enthusiasm that clearly impressed the Thompson board. As the meeting concluded, Bradley's father turned to me. I must admit, Mr. Kingston, this isn't what I expected. When Bradley told me about your unique approach to family business, I was skeptical. And now I see why our company has been struggling to compete with your innovations. You've built something remarkable here. He glanced at my family. All of you have. After the Thompsons left, my family lingered in the conference room. The silence was heavy with unspoken words. You planned this, Sarah finally said. Yes. Why? Because you needed to see yourselves through different eyes. Not as social climbers or status seekers, but as people who can contribute real value. Dad set down his cleaning supplies. Those systems, I explained. I never would have understood them if I hadn't started with maintenance. That's right. And the filing? Sarah asked. All those contracts and proposals gave you actual insight into how a billion-dollar company operates, instead of just an MBA's theoretical knowledge. Mom smiled at her former students as they packed up their tablets. These kids, they remind me of you, James, always seeing possibilities we missed. Now you're helping them realize those possibilities instead of dismissing them. I walked over to the window, looking down at the city we'd all seen so differently 3 months ago. The Honda is still in the garage, I said quietly. Would you like to know why I really keep it? They gathered around me, changed people from who they'd been that night in the diner. It's not just about remembering where I started. It's about remembering who I wanted to become. Not someone who lords their success over others, but someone who uses it to lift people up. I turned to face them. Even people who tried to sell my car. Dad chuckled, then grew serious. We were wrong. About everything. Yes, you were. But that's not what matters now. What matters is what you've learned. Sarah wiped her eyes. Bradley knew all along, didn't he? About the car, about this company. He did. And he waited to see if you'd learn what really matters. And did I? You're getting there. All of you are. Mom touched my arm gently. What happens now? Now, Dad becomes our systems integration manager. If he wants the job. Sarah, our contract management department needs a director who understands both theory and practice. And Mom, that tech center is just the beginning of our education initiative. Real jobs, Dad asked, not just lessons. You've earned them, not because you're family, but because you've learned what it takes to build something worthwhile. And the Honda, Sarah asked, stays exactly where it is. Because sometimes we all need a reminder of where we came from. And how far we can go if we just open our eyes to the possibilities. As they left my office that evening, I watched them walk together toward the parking garage. No more judgment, no more dismissal, just a family who had finally learned to see beyond appearances. The Honda sat in its special spot, surrounded by luxury cars, but holding its own kind of dignity. A reminder that success isn't about what you drive or how others see you. It's about what you build into, including the bridges you repair along the way. 6 months after the Thompson meeting, I stood in the diner where this all began. But this time, I wasn't here for a family confrontation. I was here to sign the papers transferring ownership to my parents. Are you sure about this? Dad asked, his hands steadier now, after months of real work. The calluses had become badges of honor, rather than marks of shame. You've earned it, I replied, sliding the documents across the table. Both of you understand now what it means to build something from the ground up. Mom touched the diner's worn counter with newfound respect. We'll keep Linda as manager. Smart decision. She helped me when I was starting out, back when everyone else saw just another failing tech kid. Sarah arrived with Bradley, both carrying stacks of business proposals. My sister had transformed the contract management department into one of our most efficient divisions, earning her position through merit, rather than family ties. The education center expansion plans are ready, she announced. Her designer clothes replaced by practical business attire that actually suited her better. Mom's programs are showing incredible results. Mom beamed with genuine pride. Not the artificial kind she used to display at charity galas, but the real satisfaction of helping young minds grow. 23 of our students have already been accepted into top tech programs, she said, all with full scholarships from the Kingston Foundation. I nodded, remembering my own struggles to afford education, and Dad's systems integration program. Running smoothly, he replied, teaching maintenance staff about AI integration, while learning from their practical experience. Just like you said, ivory level matters. Bradley, who had watched my family's transformation with quiet approval, spoke up. The Thompson board was impressed. They're ready to move forward with the merger. On our terms, I asked. On fair terms, he corrected. Which is what you wanted all along, isn't it? I smiled, thinking about the Honda still parked in my garage. Fairness is everything. Just then Linda approached with coffee. Your usual Mr. Kingston. James, I corrected. And yes, but serve it in the chipped mug. She understood immediately, bringing out the old coffee mug I used to drink from when I was building my company in secret. Keep that mug here, I told my parents. Like the Honda, some reminders are worth preserving. Sarah touched her engagement ring, no longer a symbol of social climbing, but a token of genuine partnership. Bradley and I are changing the wedding plans. Oh, Mom looked concerned for a moment. Old habits dying hard. We're having it here in the diner, where our family learned its most important lesson. I raised my chipped mug to lessons learned and family rebuilt, Dad added. And Honda's not sold, Sarah finished with a laugh. As we sat there, in the diner that had witnessed our family's transformation, I thought about the journey. From hidden success to revealed truth, from attempted car theft to genuine understanding, from shallow appearances to deep appreciation of real value. The Honda would stay in my garage, but its lesson would live on here too, in a chipped coffee mug, in call-used hands that knew honest work, in a sister who'd learned to value substance over status, and in parents who finally understood that success isn't about what you appear to be, but who you actually are. One last thing, I said, pulling out another document. I'm establishing a scholarship fund in our family's name, for kids who others might underestimate. Mom's eyes welled up, like we underestimated you, like society underestimates a lot of people. Sometimes the biggest success stories start with an old Honda and a chipped coffee mug. As my family examined the scholarship documents, I looked around the diner, now their diner, and saw not just a business, but a symbol of our journey. Every table, every worn booth, every coffee stain told a story of transformation. Success, I'd learned, wasn't just about proving others wrong. It was about giving them the chance to prove themselves right. And sometimes, that chance starts with a family dinner, a threatened car sale, and the courage to finally show your true worth. The Honda would always remind us of where we started, but it was this diner, with its chipped mugs and endless possibilities, that would show us where we could go, together, as a family, finally seeing each other for who we really were.